The Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakespeak.com, a pop culture entertainment news website that's based in New York City. It is episode 39, and I cannot think of a guest that represents this number than the one and only Ethan Zohn. He is a three-time Survivor player, one of the most beloved winners of all time. From my second Survivor season I watched, Survivor Africa. He is a social entrepreneur and co-founder of Grassroots Soccer, where that program has graduated 2.3 million youths. And he's also a phenomenal motivational speaker where he talks about conquering cancer, Jewish values, and supporting social good. Ethan, it is such an honor and thrill to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jacob. This is great to be here.
It is so great to have you. So I want to say this. So Ethan is the very first Jewish role model I looked up to watching Survivor Africa and seeing you compete against Big Tom and Lex and T-Bird and Mama Kim. Those were some of my favorite moments. So in addition to that, I loved seeing you on All Stars, even though it was so brief. But it's been 17 years since you last played with Survivor All Stars. So how has the Survivor experience helped you grow as a person?
Wow. The Survivor experience almost, it thrust me into a growth situation in my life. You know, here is a game where you're put into a situation where you're surrounded by these new and unknown set of circumstances where you're forced to grow as you respond to what's going on around you. Like, I was a 27-year-old Jewish kid, grew up in Massachusetts. You know, when I told my mom I'm going to play on Survivor, she's like, "What? Honey, there's no food and you need a jacket, you know, you're going to be hungry and you're going to be tired. Honey, you can't do it." But of course I did because, for me, Survivor was the greatest adventure of a lifetime at that time. Don't forget, this is way back in 2001. I think you were probably in middle school, like ripping it up at Chuck E. Cheese or something like that.
It wasn't Chuck E. Cheese's, but we did have a Friday night club, and I was out of the Chuck E. Cheese phase. So.
Of course you were. Sorry. I'm aging myself even a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously winning the $1 million and, you know, all of a sudden having a platform where I could kind of do all the things that I really want to do in life. And so Survivor definitely changed my life, sent me on a trajectory to be able to accomplish things I'd always dreamed of accomplishing.
Awesome. So when I found out you were competing on Winners at War, I was thrilled because I had 8 players I was rooting for this season. You were at my top of my list. You joined Boston Rob, Sandra, Parvati, Tyson, my fellow Kansas City, and Danny, then Adam and Wendell. So you guys were my top 8 that I was rooting for. And did I mention Sandra?
You mentioned Sandra.
Perfect. So I was so thrilled. So what was that? So when did you get that call and said, when do you want to come back and compete again?
Yeah, I got the call. It must have been January of 2019. And I'm calling in right now from the middle of the woods of New Hampshire. So when I got the call, there was a frozen lake. There was snow up to my waist. It was not the correct and best environment to start training to get ready for Survivor, especially after taking 17 years off from the show. So my wife and I, we said, all right, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. We moved out of town. We moved south so we could get outside and I could, you know, light fires and work out and swim. And, you know, my wife was hiding idols in the forest for me. You know, I was trying to gain weight. I was reading books on personality and lip reading and body language. I was tying knots, doing puzzles, everything I could possibly do to best prepare myself to get ready for this, you know, season of Survivor, which for those of you who don't know, season 40, Winners at War, they asked back 20 of the most popular winners of all time to compete for not $1, but $2 million.
And I was so happy to see another Jew on there, our friend Adam Klein.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's fun. I think you, I don't know what your age is, but you might be around the same age. So like Adam, it was funny because, you know, he was a young boy and watched me playing the game of Survivor. And he showed me pictures of him when he was a kid wearing the buffs and he's a young Jewish kid. So it feels good to, it was a little weird knowing that how old I really was out there and having people that watched me their whole youth. But it was really fun to be connected with Adam and obviously I aligned with him out there for those reasons, to be honest, because we did have a lot in common, because we're both Jewish. We both have a connection to cancer. And so I thought it was a natural connection to align with someone. It backfired in a dramatic way, but I still went for it.
Don't bring that thing back, because that elimination broke my heart. Literally.
God, it broke my heart too.
And I gotta say, because you two are the two people I wanted to talk to the most. I talked with Adam pregame, and now I talked to you postgame. So this is a full circle moment.
I wish I had talked to more people pregame. It seems like that was the thing to do on this season.
All right, so let's go back to Fiji. When you arrived for Survivor Winners at War, in your humble opinion, how did you see the game evolve? And were you surprised by the quicksilver speed of the game and the number of immediate idols and advantages that were spread throughout it?
I was surprised at the pace of the game. Yes. Survivor Africa, Survivor All-Stars, it was a slower game. There weren't any idols, clues, currencies, ways to play yourself back into the game. It was more about like honor, integrity, keep the strong, get rid of the weak. That was kind of the thing back in the day. And so what ended up happening is, I was completely shocked at how fast this game was going. And, at first I didn't really understand, how to go even look for an idol. It just wasn't part of my game, And wait, is that phone annoying you? Sorry. Can you hear that?
No, go ahead. No, right, go ahead. Sorry. I don't hear any phones.
Okay, so I'm going to start that question over again, if that's okay.
That is fine with you. That's fine with you. This is totally unedited, so we'll do
it's
that.
Unedited.
Yeah. So let's do this. So let's go back to that question again. So when you arrived in Fiji for Survivors Winners at War, in your humble opinion, how did you see the game evolve? And were you surprised by the quicksilver speed of the game and the number of immunity idols and advantages that were spread throughout it?
Yes, I was completely surprised at the pace of the game. Last time I played, it was a really long time ago. We were more into honor, integrity, trust, get rid of the weak, keep the strong. There's no clues, idols, ways to get back in the game. There's no currency, any of that stuff. And so when I got out on this show, all these different rules and different layers of complexity was really just... it was a little bit shocking, but exciting at the same time to be able to play with these new rules and these new parameters. And there's new school players, there's old school players. So I love that. I love the adventure. I love the excitement. I like trying to figure it out and adapt and roll. All of that was part of my game. I loved it.
And you were on my favorite tribe, because almost all of my favorite players ended up on the same tribe together.
I know. I mean, I ended up on a really good tribe, I know Parvati from outside the game, and I obviously played against Robin All-Stars, but I hadn't talked to the kid in 16 years, and then I got Adam. So I thought I was in a pretty good position, because going into this, I definitely wanted to have a old school alliance, but I also wanted to have a foot in the new school world as well. So Rob and Parvati were my old school, Adam was my new school.
And then sadly, you were sent packing. Seeing that elimination and seeing that, I think the entire fan base had a gasp, and there were tears. A lot of social media was upset as well. So what went through your mind when Jeff said the tribe is spoken, head to extinction?
Yeah, that was if you want to know the definition of blindside, that was the definition of blindside. I had no idea that was coming. And, when Jeff read my name, I was just completely shocked. I think what ended up happening is Adam wanted to make a big move, and then Michelle and Jeremy wanted to work with Rob and Parvati, and I was just kind of in the way of that. So it was an easy vote for them. It was obviously not a great vote for me, but I was shocked, floored, and then, it takes a little while to actually, to what just happened set in. And by the time I got to the edge of extinction, that's when it all just came crashing down on me. And I was like, wow. The game, I put in so much time and effort and was so excited to come back and play after years and health challenges, and it was just cut a little bit too short for my liking. I felt I didn't even get going, and I didn't even get time to get my foothold and start playing the game the way I wanted to play.
I think a lot of people have said this. If you made it to the end and you were sitting up against Tony and maybe Michelle, you would probably have won. So you would have taken Tony down.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that happens between, the fourth episode and then, the 13th episode. So I appreciate people saying that. I understand. But yeah, I think that was one of the things. Like, no one wanted to go to the end with me because I do have a decent story for Survivor. And now people play the game in such a different way. And the fact that, like, they don't want anyone who's got a good story or backstory or a history in the game. No one wants to sit next to that person because, so they were kind of weaponizing my cancer story against me and using it to get me voted off. So they didn't have to sit next to me in the end. Pretty crazy, right?
Which is, it's and damn shame too, because I've waited for years to see you back.
Tell me about it. Thank you.
All righty, so you're so welcome. So I want to talk to you about the Edge, because the thing is, the two of the moments that really inspired the fan base was the log retrieval.
Yeah.
That log retrieval, and I was so happy when. Oh wow! Wow, guys, this is on audio. So Ethan just hold up a piece of wood that says, "Ethan, you must transfer one piece of wood at a time."
So this was the clue that was sitting on top of the mountain in front of our 20 logs. So the challenge was walk around through the sand, slippery rocks, up a bunch of stairs, up a hill, and grab one log. And you had to do that 20 times until you got all 20 logs. And by log 16, I passed out, fell down, and it was just one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to put my body through, my mind through. And, I've been through some stuff. And so that was a really difficult moment for me. On the flip side, I was really impressed with the other three competitors out there with me. It was Natalie, Danny, and Amber, and myself. And when in a game where I'm thinking, okay, they're going to kick me while I'm down because we're all competing for $2 million and a couple fire tokens, they ended up doing the opposite. They actually picked me up and they supported me and they carried me up to the top of the mountain for that one last time. And we all did it together. And that was just a beautiful moment in the middle of this cutthroat game of Survivor.
I agree, because that not only enhanced their legacies, but also enhanced the camaraderie between these champions, because we saw that how this game, once $2 million appears, it becomes cutthroat really quickly.
Definitely. So yeah, I was impressed, honored, surprised, and because sometimes you don't necessarily see the compassion and the empathy in the game of Survivor, and it definitely was shown during this moment. And because of this moment, I worked with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and we recreated the Log Challenge to raise money and awareness for blood cancer. So we thought that was a pretty neat little connection to the show, and we had a fun little event. And so when the Log Challenge comes up next year, I hope everyone who's listening remembers and they participate in the Log Challenge for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
I need to find a way in New York City to do that, because I'm not sure if I can do that in my hometown of Kansas City, but New York City is a whole different animal.
It's so easy. All it is, it's 200 steps, 20 step-ups. You do that 20 times, and you have a log on your shoulder. And by log, it can be a log, a stick, a branch. It can be a picture of a log on your cell phone. I don't care. Just get out there, get active, and just, help raise awareness with the Log Challenge for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Awesome. And then also, I got to say, the family visit, seeing your wife out there. And I was like, when they showed everyone that got on the island that had family visit, it was Tyson's first family visit in his entire career, Survivor. But then I'm like, I'm praying, please bring them over to Edge. Please bring them over to Edge. And I was like, yes. So what was your reaction when your wife was on the boat with all these people, all the other loved ones for the Edge people?
Well, it was a complete surprise to us, basing what happened on season 38, which was another season where they used the Edge of Extinction as a twist. They didn't get family visits if you're on the Edge of Extinction. So in my mind, I never even thought that we'd get a family visit to come. And not only that, it was about 7 days earlier than it normally traditionally is in a game of Survivor. And so we were just hanging out like we always are doing, because there isn't much to do on the Edge. And we saw the boat float around and all these people on it. And at first I thought, oh, Probst is coming here. It's bad news, right? Because there's always bad news when there's a lot of people showing up. But instead it wasn't. It was the opposite. It was like the beautiful moment. And I saw my wife, Lisa, there, and I was waving to her. And she said, she looked at me and she said, I look like, like a prisoner of war, like just a glaze over my eyes. I had already lost, 24 pounds. My clothes were dirty. She just didn't recognize me. And I just was like glossed over. I was in shock. I couldn't even believe that they were there in front of us. Because every day you're thinking about your home and your family and how hungry and thirsty and tired you are. And then they're there. And you're like, whoa, this is just so weird. Your worlds are colliding. It takes you out of the game for a minute, but it gives you that strength and the energy and the emotion to kind of carry through for the final days of the game.
All right, so we got to get, speaking of the final days of the game, once you got, where the final, when Natalie got in, we have the final six, and then slowly get down. You guys went to Ponderosa.
Uh-huh.
And then now we get to the fun parts where you have this one of the greatest, the greatest part? Jury in, what?
The fun part is the eating part when you get off the edge of extinction. That's the fun part.
I know, but for a fan,
for
a fan point of view, is seeing that massive jury, because you're looking at some of the greatest players who ever play a game, and now you're awarding another queen or the first king a chance to become the ultimate survivor. So we all know that you were one of the 4 people from the Edge that voted for Natalie over Tony and Michelle. And I've looked at some of the past interviews that you did with some of our mutual friends, Rob Cesternino and Scott Yeager at Challenge Mania.
Oh, nice.
So what went through your mind when you decided to give the win to Natalie?
What went through my mind was a couple things. First of all, it was a really difficult decision for me. Giving anyone a gift of $2 million is a big choice. And, I love that there's a huge jury, because my first time on the jury, and I like to know that I had one little piece left to influence the game in some small way. So that's a good feeling. That's why you want to be on the jury, so you have a part of this game. Feel a little bit of ownership. So Tony got there, and everything I knew about Tony was what I saw at Tribal Council or what people told me when they arrived at the Edge. So at Tribal Council, you don't really see that much. I'm not with him day by day. I don't see every single move and every intricate thing that he's doing. So that's one thing. And then everyone that comes to the Edge, you never know if they're telling you the truth. They're friends with Tony. They're lobbying for him. They have a relationship with him. They have an alliance. I have no idea what's going on. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. So put that on one side. The other side is, listen, I lived with Natalie for 30 days. She crushed everyone on the Edge, including me. She did everything she possibly could to win the Edge of Extinction and battle her way back into the game. And so for me, it was like she broke out of jail and now she's in freedom. And it validated my experience on the Edge of Extinction, because it was brutal. It was hard. We were there for 30 days. She was there longer than I was. So having her in the final 3 almost represented all of us and validated our experience. And I had a tough time giving Tony $2 million. Never met the guy, never talked to him, never spoke with him, never shook his hand, smiled, nothing. He was a stranger to me other than just watching him at Tribal Council. So for me, someone who plays with their heart, it just made more sense to me to vote for Natalie.
I haven't given the win to Natalie as well. I know that's a lot of the Survivor fan bases might not be very happy with that answer, but
yeah, it's a tough decision, because the game itself, the 2 core elements of the game of Survivor is you can't get voted out and you have to vote people out. And so Natalie got voted out, and maybe she was in the game for 5 days and voted 2 people out, maybe 3, if you're including Denise, I guess, if she was there. So it's like she wasn't in. I mean, being in the game is tough. 39 days of that constant stress in that environment is a lot different than the Edge of Extinction. I don't know if it's harder or worse. I wasn't in it, but I know the Edge was brutal and it was very difficult. Maybe Tony wouldn't be able to handle the Edge. We have no idea. And if you're looking at the whole rules in the game of Survivor, for this particular season of Survivor, the Edge of Extinction was part of the rules of the game. So if you're looking for someone who has had the best game, the best, most well-rounded game, well, I can fault Tony for never having visited the Edge. That's one thing you can look at. In order to be the most well-rounded, perfect winner, I maybe feel you have to be in the show, you got to be on the Edge, and you got to get back in, because then you've seen the whole season. You've been part of everything, every aspect of the game you participated in. Tony only played in the real game. So it's an argument. I can't say it's, how many people will believe in that, but there are different ways to look at this season and how to judge and how to make a decision on who to vote for.
I have to agree with you on that. So during your exit interview with our mutual friend Rob Cesternino for ET Canada, because I know you sat down with him for a deep dive, and it was a really good deep dive. So you have stated that you're officially retired from Survivor. So what were some of the factors that led you to making that decision?
One, I'm an old man.
You're not that old, Ethan.
I think I think Tony was a few months older than me, actually, surprisingly. And then Denise was older than me as well. So third oldest on the season. But I don't know. It's just I've been through a lot. My body took a toll on me this time. Mentally, it was a struggle for me. And I just think this season, it's kind of like the perfect bookend for me on this incredible life that Survivor's given me. And, I started when I was 27 years old. I'm 46 now. I've had 20 great years of being involved with the show, and I still love the show and I'll watch it. I just don't think it's in my cards to go play again. Maybe I would do like a Cochrane thing and show up for a night, or if they want to big a giant statue of my Jufro out there and I can be an idol, I'm okay with that. I don't know how they're going to do curls with wood, but we'll figure it out. So like those types of things would be really fun for me, but to play the game would be difficult. The only season I may consider going on would be like Australia or like Israel. That would be really fun to try to play a season in another country.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
South Africa or something. That would be interesting to me.
That's where I remember South Africa, because that's when Adam thought the Fleur de Lis was the immunity idol.
Yes. And that was a brilliant move on that kid's part, on Adam's part, from this season. Because, in hindsight, understanding what Denise's idol looked like made sense that Adam was kind of looking for other clues. So on the podium, the Bima, he saw the Fleur de Lis, and we were all like, yeah, I mean, if that had worked out, that would have been one of the most epic moves in the history of the game of Survivor, but it didn't. I thought Jeff would just give it to him because it was so smart. No one's ever tried to play an idol at Tribal Council. So I thought that was brilliant on Adam's part.
Okay, I think we're going to be looking for a future Adam Klein idol in the future.
I think you're right.
Alrighty, so one of my favorite things I loved this season was the postcards from the Edge. I gave you every single comment. For those of you who do not know this, guys, that Ethan wrote postcards as camp, and he's holding one of them up right now. He is for guys and for everyone listening. He's holding a postcard on the Edge right now, and he has drawn everything like Camper Ethan wrote to his mom about the horrible conditions on the Edge, and how he called Amba, he called Tyson Red Pants, Robbie, and then also Natalie, and then they also have the old school gang. So when did you get the idea for this? And do you expect it to be well received, not just by your castmates, but the Survivor fan base as well?
Sure. I wish I could take credit for it, but it was my wife. My wife thought of the idea. And I mean, growing up, I went to Jewish sports camp my whole life. And we thought, because I got voted out so early, and it would just be fun to almost share the story of Survivor and the Edge of Extinction through the eyes of an 8-year-old, homesick, sad, lonely, confused, angry version of myself. So imagine an 8-year-old Ethan stuck on the edge of extinction with all these people and kind of sharing that story with the world, and in the form of postcards to my mom from the edge of extinction. So it was my wife's idea, and it was really, really fun for us to sit around and think about things to say, and just I had an excuse to be miserable and tell about my counselor, Jeff, making us run up giant hills to find rice. I couldn't poop, and, just all the things you would imagine an 8-year-old to write home to mom about from camp. And I think the fans enjoyed it. The one thing for me this season, which is different than the other 2 seasons, is I actually get to interact with the fans. Like, there was no social media when I was on the first time. So the only time I could interact with a fan was if I saw them in person at an event or whatever. But now it's so much fun to be able to, interact with people in real time as the show's on the air, and then kind of put out some postcards. And I don't know, it's really fun for me. Like this podcast right here, this is fun for me because I get to hang out with you, chat with a fan. And that would have never happened like back in the day. And so these things are really fun. And in fact, I am now, if you're interested, anyone who's listening, I will write you a personalized custom postcard from the Edge from an 8-year-old Ethan. So if you go to my website, ethanzohn.com, you can buy one of these postcards, and I handwrite them all of myself, and give me a note that birthday, anniversary, bar mitzvah, graduation, whatever you want. I'll write you a postcard from the edge, and I'll send it to you.
I'm going to take you up on that.
Okay.
So, guys, it's great. And by the way, I love the way you spelled Parvati and how you guys handled the family visit and also Sandra's exit from the edge. It was incredible, great ideas.
And I'm making, because they were so popular, I'm now making a book of all the postcards from the edge with some never before seen postcards that'll stick in there. Plus, you'll get some blank ones that you can kind of mail on your own. So stay tuned.
That is incredible, guys. That is so incredible. That's going to be so much fun. So, but I would love to talk to you about another campaign of yours, the Old School Survivor campaign, because I love the shirt Old School. And then you saw all the winners, but what meant the most to me was seeing Richard Hatch, Tina Weston, Visepia, Todd, I got my eyes shot big when I saw Lex, when I saw Big Tom, when I saw Jerry. And guys, if you're not, and Rob C. So guys, he's holding up the Old School shirts, and it is unbelievable. It's like an Old School late night with David Letterman shirt, which has Old School Survivor. And that's the reason why I love seeing everything. So how did that campaign get organized?
Actually, I made that shirt 5 years ago when I hit the 5-year mark from my recovery from cancer. So when you hit 5 years in the cancer world, like, you're Old School Survivor, right? So I made it for cancer and raised money for cancer back in the day. And then no idea that Survivor 40 was coming up. This is 5 years ago, think about. Probably 6 years ago, actually, now. And then it just so happened that there was this like old school, new school divide. I'm like, whoa, let's resurrect the Old School Survivor shirt. So I resurrected it, and the proceeds go to Rare Cancer Research, and there's a special commemorative logo on the back right here. And by the time this podcast airs, like, this is the final call for this shirt. We only have a few left. It's a final call. Get them now, because once they're gone, they're gone. You'll never see them again. Not making them. I'm introducing a new color right here. So if you're interested in this color too,
I love the light gray one, guys. Yeah. He's showing.
This is more like this is like a slate blue. The other one is like a dark heathered gray, but they're super soft, pre-washed. They're like it's like butter, these shirts.
The big stick of butter. Alrighty, so. What have been some of the challenges that you faced being associated with the world of reality television? How did you overcome those obstacles?
Well, to be honest, there weren't many obstacles for me being on reality television. I was very fortunate and very lucky to be on Survivor Africa, which was the beginning of the reality TV trajectory in the world. I mean, put yourself in a spaceship, go back in time 20 years. There was nothing. You had the Real World, you had Survivor, and then maybe like Joe Millionaire, and then like American Idol started popping up, and then Amazing Race, and then Big Brother. But Survivor, was one of the originals. So to be on the show at the time when that's all there was, listen, we got 30 million viewers a week. Now we're getting, 9. At the most. So like, think about how big a deal this was back in the day. And I'm not saying that to say anything. I'm just saying that to like give you a perspective on how popular this show was, because there weren't that many other reality shows on the air. So this was like, we were competing against Friends for ratings, so that was our competition. And so I think it was really cool to be in early on. And so it just opened doors for me. I'm incredibly grateful to every moment that I've had because of Survivor.
And here's the thing of what makes you stand out to me as one of my all-time favorite winners, and probably one of the most beloved winners, is that you walk the walk. After you won Survivor Africa, you co-founded Grassroots Soccer. In 2022, the organization will celebrate its 20th anniversary. So how has Grassroots Soccer helped establish a presence on the world stage?
Well, Grassroots Soccer is an organization I co-founded with the money I won from Survivor Africa. And the reason I did that was because prior to my time on Survivor, I lived and played professional soccer in Zimbabwe. And while I was there, a couple of my friends got HIV, kicked off the team, ostracized from the community. And I didn't really know what I could do at that time in my life. I was 26 years old, no money, didn't really have anything to do to save the world in Africa, right? So fast forward to Survivor. Once again, I was brought back to Africa, but this time to Kenya, where I won a reward challenge, and I used my luxury item.
The hacky sack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right here, the hacky sack.
And guys, he just brought up the hacky sack, and that's the exact same hacky sack that we saw in some of the most memorable, one of the most memorable moments from the old school early seasons was you going on the reward challenge. Was it with Lex? If I remember correctly?
Yeah, good memory.
Yes, thank God, I still have it. So, and you guys were playing hacky sack with the kids in the village.
Yeah, exactly. We're actually playing. This isn't the exact hacky sack because I ended up giving it away to one of the kids before I left because I felt like a toy to me was a luxury to him. We're in the middle of Kenya. There's nothing there. We're hanging out in the parking lot of Wamba Hospital, actually. So I asked one of the nurses before I left, why are these kids just hanging out in the parking lot of a hospital? And she said, well, these are the kids that are HIV positive. So here I was in the middle of this game, this cutthroat game of Survivor, and I had a real life experience. So when I got back from the show, we met up with some soccer buddies of mine, and we co-founded Grassroots Soccer. And since Survivor Africa, then I went on to Survivor All-Stars, where they let me wear this shirt, Survivor All-Stars.
And guys, this is the yellow shirt that he wore during the first days of Saboka, if I remember the name of the tribe. Yeah.
Good memory, good memory. So
and I love that tribe because seriously, it was the most wildest deck because you had the Mogo Mogo had the cutthroat players. Shaperna had the schemers. You guys were a mixed batch. Seriously, Rupert, the late Rudy, Tina, Jerry, you, and I can't remember, and Jenna Lewis. And Jenna Lewis. That was a really fun team.
It was and it wasn't, They only asked back 4 winners. We were screwed before the game even started, and our tribe's entire strategy was to get the winners off first. So it was kind of an uphill battle from the start. So, it was unfortunate. And, even what happened on this season when they voted off all the old schoolers, first, I don't know what was going on there. So it's interesting.
I was mad about that. I almost walked away from that because I was so angry because it was the time I got to see you come back, Danny after a long time, seeing Amber back, seeing I know we recently saw Tyson, but Boston Rob, but Parvati, since that and Sandra, even though it was Game Changers, but however she won Heroes versus Villains, so it still got mad. I was and Yule too.
Yeah, Yule too. Everyone got it.
By the way, everyone was robbed of an alliance between you and Yule.
I know, that would have been incredible. I love Yule. He's a good dude.
Alrighty, so let's get back to this. So
Grassroots Soccer, Survivor All-Stars. Maybe we had 1,000 kids go through the program. Now in 2020, we are in 60 countries and we've graduated 2.9 million kids from the program.
Wow!
All because of a little TV show called Survivor.
And that is probably one of the best legacies that Survivor will have.
I think so. I'd like to think so. I'm biased, but of course.
All right. So in addition to Grassroots Soccer, you advocate strongly for both Jewish philanthropy and cancer eradication. And what have been some of the projects from both these worlds that you've been the proudest of the most?
Well, I think one of the most proud partnerships that I've been able to be a part of is the partnership between Survivor, the TV show, and Stand Up to Cancer. So at the end of each at the end of each season, eBay auctions off all the props from Survivor to raise money for Stand Up to Cancer. And so we created that when I was sick in 2009, and we had just lost a good friend of ours, a friend of the Survivor family, Jennifer Lyon, passed away from breast cancer. And so we created this campaign, and that's been really, really successful, still going on today. So that's pretty neat. And in terms of Jewish values, and my connection to the Jewish community, I do a lot of work within the Jewish community. I work with the Schusterman Foundation, BBYO, Maccabee USA, JCC. What else? That's about it. Jew in the City, Tribe Fest. So growing up Jewish was a big part of my life, and I lived by Jewish values and kind of played the game by Jewish values, being selfless, being a leader, being a member of the community, tikkun olam, to heal the world. That's all these stuff I believe in. So it's been really fortunate to be able to be involved with all these organizations.
All right, so this is the second to last question.
Cool.
Okay, so if you had the opportunity to meet with Survivor fans who want to audition for the show, what advice would you share with them?
Don't do it. It's the worst. Don't do it. Go home, eat Doritos, sit on the couch. I don't know. I mean, you guys, whoever's applying for the show, you've probably watched the show and you see the characters that are on the show. You have to be able to tell a good story. You have to be able to talk for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and be able to describe what's going on and share your feelings and be real and truthful and authentic. You can see the people where they're a little forced and they're a little acting. It just doesn't come off right. And as a viewer, you connect with the people that are the most real. And so if you take away food and you take away water, you're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty, your true person comes out. And that's who Survivor wants to cast. So if you're going into your interview, just be an excited, elevated version of yourself. See if you can fit yourself into a stereotype. Like, they need the hot chick, they're Jewish guy, they're sporty dude, they're farmer, they're gay guy, they're black dude. So they need to fit in a category. So be in that category. Make sure the sound, the lighting is really good. You don't have to do anything flashy and fancy in terms of editing. Just you in front of the camera. Talk straight for 3 minutes. Tell them exactly who you are, why you'd win, why the money's important to you, how you would use all the clues and challenges. They want strategy. They want fans. They want students of the game. So make sure you just deliver all that in a power-packed 3 minutes for the audition tape.
All righty. Now, Ethan, where can my audience find you?
I can't tell you that.
I meant to say...
I'm in isolation now, man.
I meant to say social media and websites.
I know. I'm just joking.
I apologize for that.
Yeah. So, my website, ethanzohn.com, is a great place to find some information. You can get the Grassroots Soccer shirts, old school Survivor shirts, postcards from the edge, all right on my website. You can check me out on social media, which is at Ethan Zohn on Instagram, same on Twitter. And that's about it. So what I use the most.
All right. Okay, guys. So for more information on the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast and to listen to some of my interviews, including with Rob Sesternino, the Clairvoyants, and so many people from Big Brother and from America's Got Talent, type in the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and Spreaker. Once again, it's the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB, podcast. Now, if you want to connect with me on social media, connect with me on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, you can watch incredible conversations with me, with Rob, with the Clairvoyants, and with Kim Mattina, the winner of Sequester. So you go over there. And also, if you want to read more stories and more interviews, including my Adam Klein interview that happened before Winners at War started, head to jakestake.com. Once again, it's jakes-take.com. Ethan Zohn, you have been a privilege to talk with. It has been truly an honor to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun chatting with you too, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the island.
All righty. I'll talk to you later, guys, and have a great day. Bye.
Take care.